welcome to this week's episode of the Noted Podcast. This week we are going to be talking about a concept theory, or just a concept in general, about like storytelling, or like different types of writing. We did this one already with like different kind of magic systems, right, Daniel? Where
We
you
talking
kind of
about magic
explained,
systems.
yeah, we're ears.
Mhm.
Whoopsh. What would you say? um, but yeah, we talked about like different type of magic systems, right? But the last movie we did, not the last movie, but the last movie we did was The Giver, which is one of my favorite movies, simply just because it's a utopian movie, like utopian dystopian movie, right?
Mhm.
And so I thought it would be interesting to kind of like learn about utopians and dystopians and kind of how they were like sort of made, I guess,
And
or
like
like
the differences.
yeah, and like when they started, because why not?
Yeah, because we're becoming educational. We're not just a ton of dweebs
No,
talking
we're
about
we're
Star
still
Wars,
that.
and
No,
we,
we're
we
still
are,
that.
but we're gonna try to also help you maybe expand your knowledge of stories. So then you
Yeah.
understand what you're shoving in your face 9 times a day.
I wish someone would listen to our stuff 9 times a day.
Oh no,
Damn.
not our stuff. Like when they're watching TV and stuff, TV and
No, but our
movies.
things would be better.
Are yes, yes.
So we've already covered
Factually.
factually. um we've already covered a utopian movie before, and that surprisingly I didn't think that this was a utopian, honestly, but the more that I thought about it and the more that I kind of like researched it, the Truman Show is technically like utopian, because it's like it's the perfect system, and then someone sees that it's fake and then like breaks out of it, which is like most utopian stories, right? Um, and so like I'll give you the small lesson of where the word utopian came from. In 1916, just a couple years ago, guys, in 1516, Sir Thomas More created a word meaning no place, or utopia, because Greek, I don't know how to say how to Greek English stuff.
The
But
prefix "u," which is no or not.
yeah, right. And then topia, meaning place. So utopia, the perfect system, translates to not real. It's not a thing, right?
Because
And yet,
utopias don't exist. They can't exist.
yeah, well, yeah, it's just crazy, because a lot of people desire like the perfect system, or like the perfect outcome, or like the perfect this or that, and it's just like this is it's unfathomable, uncomplishable, right? But that's where like I feel like there's a lot of movies and TV shows that play in to perfect systems, right? So we have the Truman Show, where Truman, Jim Carrey, is stuck in a giant bubble, born in the bubble, raised in the bubble, marries in the bubble, almost dies in the bubble, right? And it's the perfect system designed for him to grow and prosper and feel like a real human, and
I'm a
yet
real boy.
it's all I'm a real boy. But it's all fake, right?
Yeah.
And then you also have systems like Zootopia, which is a kids movie.
Oh, it's such a good kids movie,
It's
though.
such a good kids movie, but it's like filled with like underlying, like, I don't know if you could say,
Prejudice.
like, yeah, no, yeah, okay, yeah, I okay. Now that you said it, I can now
Yeah.
say it. No.
I'll say. I mean, the
Yeah.
the whole movie is just about how like there's a prejudice
Carnivores are
against
bad.
prejudice against predators because
Yeah.
the prey are now in charge and the prey are uncomfortable with the fact that the predators used to kill them
Yeah.
and still kind of do, question mark, not really.
Question mark. When's the second one coming out? Hello now. And then you also have like The Good Place, which is phenomenal. I love it. But we won't get into that of my opinion of the show. We'll just get into the matter of like what it's about,
Because
which
hint, hint,
is
wink, 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 hint, hint,
hint,
hint,
hint,
hint,
wink, wink. Next
listen.
Friday, hint, hint, wink, wink.
Mm-hmm,
Uh,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but
Get ready.
it's like Main character dies and they get sent to the good place. And then like everything is perfect.
Yeah,
Like
it's the afterlife.
every everything is beautiful and the system is amazing, but like dun 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 spoilers. I'm not going to say it. I wouldn't. But it's always something that is perceived to be desirable but not real, right?
Yeah,
It's always something that someone wants but can't achieve, which interests me, and I think that's like something I feel like humanity has always done is like chased after like the unobtainable, right?
well, yeah, it's why we have like perfectionists,
Yeah.
and
I
and
mean,
and
that's
I
why we
think
have
it's
everything.
but I think it's good to strive for a utopia as like a concept, as like this is what we should strive for. But
Yeah.
in it's like it's almost against human nature, just because it's
It's
there's
too perfect. There
well
has to be.
there will always be some fucking jugglehead, some
Yeah.
fucking chucklehead who's like, well, I'm gonna fuck your shit up and mess it all up. And humans are humans aren't inherently evil, but there are a lot of evil humans for one
Yeah.
reason or another. So I just cynical part of me does not believe that we could all live peacefully together in a perfect society with in harmony with no issues, no quarrels.
And most of the time with utopians, it also falls under the fact of like oppression almost, because most of the time in utopians it's like yes, everything is peaceful but at the extent of something, you know? Like everything is peaceful and happy and perfect, but you can't express emotions.
Yeah, and you
Everything is
can't see
peaceful and
color.
happy and perfect, but you can't see color. Or peaceful, happy, and perfect, but you euthanize babies. Right. Like,
I'm gonna kill that baby.
yeah, eat the fetus. Um, but like, I, I, I just think it's crazy. Like, the concept of utopians are nuts, right? But
Mhm.
then, like, 200 to 300 years later, a man named John Stuart Mill decided to make an opposite genre, or if you would want to say, create another word called dystopian, meaning like dys prefix meaning bad, and then topia again meaning place. So it's a bad place, meaning like the possible outcome that you could absolutely think of. It's happening. Post apocalyptic, injustice everywhere, like pretty much what you would consider to be like hell essentially, right? Like when I think of dystopians, I think of like Mad Max. Um like just crazy like desert planets. But that isn't really what dystopians are. Like yes,
Mhm.
that's an outcome of a dystopian, I think, but like a dystopian is like maximum oppression. It's
Well,
putting everybody in their place to think that it is a good place, but it's not, kind of thing. Does that
and
make
a
sense?
great oh yeah, and a great example I just thought of at the top of my head of a dystopian would be literally the Empire from the original Star Wars trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
They preach that they're without the Empire, the rest of the world would be in chaos and constant war, and there would be
Yeah.
and bandits and thieves and slavery. And it's like we are bringing peace and order and control to the galaxy. We are
And
bringing
justice to my
and
new empire.
yeah, and
Sorry.
bringing and bringing resources to those who wouldn't have them. Well, subtle oppression and murder of people who disagree with them.
Yeah,
just
just easy genocide. You
yeah,
know,
easy.
it's fun.
You know,
It's great.
what this room
Jokes,
of
jokes,
children didn't
jokes,
need to
jokes.
happen.
Yeah.
Let's kill them. Let's kill all
Yeah.
these younglings.
Yeah. And so like a lot of like a big dystopian is like the Matrix, right?
Yeah.
Is the perfect system built to be used as
Oppress.
a battery, and then you have like the outlier Neo, Keanu Reeves, fighting against the injustice, right? To the robots, they're in utopia. They're in the perfect system. They've created perfection, right? But then you have like the small little things that are their enemy. But for the main story in all intents, for all tense and purses, um,
For all the
it's
tense.
all the tense and all the purses. It's dystopian, right? And then you also have the movie In Time, which is
Mm.
a really cool one. It's about like literally like losing time, and if you lose time, you die. It stars Justin Timberlake and a bunch of other people.
And in
That
time, you also spend time, correct? To like buy things like its currency.
yes, it is. It's everything. Like in that movie, time is it's everything. It's nuts.
But in the movie, like the rich grow old and can live forever, and the
The
poor
yeah,
die
the rich can
young.
have like thousands of years, while the poor have like 24 hours to live and have to go to work to get more time to then go home, sleep for 8 hours, come back to work with only 2 hours left, and then work for more hours. If that feels really relatable, it's because it is. That's because dystopians are more relatable.
Because the world's a fucked up place.
Yeah, yep. But
And
there's also another dystopian called 1984, which I have not read, but Daniel is a huge lover of this.
yeah, I had to read it in high school, which it's a very
Oh,
good book, which I would recommend people if you haven't read it, read it. So it takes place like in a dystopian society, and in this society, the government is complete control, like 1,000% control. They choose who you marry. They choose what your job is. They have what's called the thought police,
hmm.
which is pretty much they watch you at all times, and if they think that you are having going against the grain in any way, are believing, like starting to think or believe things or say things that are against the belief of the government or against their agenda, and they see you, like, let's say you're alone and you're like, screw the government, or like, I want to marry someone else, or like, this is all like any anti-government pretty much, or anti their agenda, they'll come and throw you in jail. And
Yeah,
our main character starts off the show with in the Ministry of Truth, I think it's what they call it.
that
and
just
each
sounds terrifying.
and they have, yeah, they have all these different ministries that are like ministry of this, ministry of that. Like ministry of peace is what the thought police are part of. And the concept is like all these ministries are actually the opposite of what they say they are. And so the
Yeah,
ministry of truth, if I'm remembering the exact name
lies.
properly, they literally will rewrite history depending on what helps their narrative. So for example, in the beginning of the book, there's like Eurasia, and then North America, and then there is the EU,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's the EU, or no, it might be China, but there's like three major,
Yeah.
uh, like countries that control the world, like three major countries. In the beginning of the world, the country our main character is in is at war with another country. It's posted everywhere, anti propaganda of them. And then like halfway through the movie, something or through the book, something changes and they end up becoming allies with that country, but the
Mm-hmm.
government needs their people to be on board with this. So what they do is they completely rewrite their history saying they've always been on that side. They've always agreed with them. They actually disagree with the other ruling power, the other country, and we've always been at war. They've always been
Ah.
our enemy. And like they have in the beginning of the movie, they have the main character literally rewriting newspapers that were published like 30 years ago and then deleting public records, like destroying public records of the old newspapers.
Yeah.
So for all intents and purposes, for someone who wasn't there and doesn't know, this is now
All
the new truth.
all tense and purses.
All intents and purposes. So yeah, that like it is it was written to be like this is it was written by, I think it was George Orwell. Yeah, George Orwell, and it was written to be a dystopian social science fiction novel about the um
Cold War. What?
the evil of what communism could become, and
Ah.
a like a
I
hey.
feel that's why a lot of people reference this now.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, because it's
I
like
completely now understand why people reference this book now.
it is like the book. If there were any book or any piece of media that was anti-communism, 1984 is like the anti-communism book.
It's Manifesto.
Yeah, and
Gotcha.
it's written by the same dude who wrote Animal Farm, which is uh
Crazy.
more. Have you read Animal Farm?
I've heard of it. When researching a bunch of dystopian things, I came across a pretty long video talking about Animal Farm, and I listened to about half of it, and I was just like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah,
Thanks. Bye.
Animal Farm is pretty much like the like a freshman middle schooler's introduction to communism.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is George Orwell wrote Animal Farm as a hey, I need to get this concept out to younger people who aren't ready to hear the hard truth of 1984. So like I read Animal Farm in 8th grade on my
What?
own volition, and then yeah, and
I
then
feel
in
that would have creeped me the fuck out, dude.
oh it was a bit weird. And then in
I
ninth
mean,
grade,
even
my teacher
even
actually had us read Animal Farm in 9th grade, but I read it on my own in 8th grade.
what a rebel. Look at
I
you.
know, right? Look at
Look
me.
at you getting ahead of the game.
It
But
sounds
the
like I was like
so
academically pressed in school, which I
no,
wasn't.
Daniel was dumb as fuck. No, kidding. I was. It's okay. Self roasting. That's what we're
but
here for.
but yeah, no, like it's a book that carries a lot of heavy topics. And
Yeah.
1984 is something that usually in a lot of curriculums they have like seniors read.
Yeah.
So Animal Farm is pretty much a ton of animals that don't like the way that they're being like pretty much dictatorshiped over by the farmer. So
Yeah.
they literally overthrow the farmer and create a society of the animals where they all work together for each other,
Say
and they
boo to
call each
pig
other
now.
yep, and they call each other comrades and stuff. And then eventually Napoleon overthrows Napoleon and Snowball are together, and apparently eventually Napoleon does a like is able to trick the rest of the people and frame his partner Snowball, which is like Stalin and Lenin, um, into saying like he's evil and he's betraying us, and gets his only rival kicked out. And so then Napoleon's there and un unopposed, and then he eventually ends up making business deals with humans, even though the start of the revolution was we hate humans.
Makes sense.
So there's your little book club about Animal Farm in
There's
1984.
your there's your book club.
Yeah.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, if you want to read about dystopians, I definitely recommend that, especially if you're a little younger. Start with Animal Farm first. Either way, they're both good books to read.
Yeah, I will never read Animal Farm. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think that I could handle it simply just
Why?
because. Why? It's cause they're animals. I can't relate to that. I understand
Yeah.
the symbolism, but like, I just find the fact that they're animals creepy as hell, and that it was made for children. That's creepy.
Yeah, it's a
That
bit.
children don't need to learn about this.
Yeah.
I mean, they need to, but not. They just need to learn about it, not be like oddly kind of like coerced. Oh, hey, we're gonna learn about politics. You like this
maybe this
pig?
is
You like this pig?
maybe this
Yeah,
is why
that's
I don't like.
Napoleon.
Maybe this is why I don't like communism.
I don't like politics in general, Daniel. I'm not a fan. But so to kind of get back on topic,
Yeah.
the reason why dystopians are relatable and why they kind of like hit us where the feelings are felt is because most of the time they're elevated versions of our worst faults as societies, right? Or as humans, I guess you could say, but mostly like a societal purpose kind of thing. At least that's how I see dystopians. Like every time I see a dystopian, it's always just like, wow, this is a lot of craziness that makes sense, and I can see how they get there, and I just really hope we don't get there. you
It's
know?
like the worst case scenario of what a human
Exactly.
society could get to, and it's
Exactly.
it's almost always fueled by power and greed and wanting to control others. And
It's almost like dystopians, like, I feel like there's such a fine line between utopians and dystopians, right?
mm-hmm.
In my brain at least, I feel like there's a very like thin line, because like in a dystopian, depending on what your status is, like you could be in a utopia. Does that make sense? Cuz most
Say
of the
that again.
time, like, so if you live in a dystopian world, depending on your status or rank or position, like if you're in power in a dystopian world, you are in your utopia, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like just like a dictator in a
Yeah,
dictatorship is living
exactly.
legitimately the best life they could be
That they
living.
could possibly live.
Yeah, they have all the
It,
money. No one can stop them. They're God
yeah,
amongst men. Yeah.
like of course, like the whole arcing story is a dystopian story, but like when it comes down to just perspective, which I love, I don't know, I don't know if you're a first time listener or like you've listened to multiple of our podcasts, but I love talking about perspective and about like trying to understand different people's like thoughts and feelings and stuff like that. Like I just love I love that kind of stuff. And I think utopians and dystopians really intrigue me just because to someone, something could be dystopian esque, but to another, that's the perfect system. Does that make
Well, and
sense? Which is why I think that they're both never achievable. I think that it would be easier for humanity to fall into a dystopian because a utopian is never like
it's almost
obtainable.
unachievable.
Yeah,
Where a dystopian is very achievable, and you could make the argument dystopias have to a degree happened in
oh no,
certain
dude,
societies and countries.
North Korea.
Yeah, like it's happened.
Yeah,
And
it's
so,
happened.
and if you like Eric's different perspectives and trying to understand people, you should go watch our episode concept breakdown about villains, where we talk about the perspective of villains. There you go, plug. Continue.
Plug. Continue. Oh yeah, and if you also like our content, just list all 45 videos.
Hey,
Please, we consistent. I mean, I'm pretty much done here. This is a pretty short video. I just
yeah.
wanted to get the topic out of just like I really enjoy these. So like if you have a movie or a TV show or a book that was not talked about, um, and you'd like to recommend that, you should leave it in the comments, or yeah, no, leave it in the
Yeah.
comments
Hey,
and
and we're
like the
sorry,
video.
continue.
No, you're good.
We're coming up on our 50th video here soon, so like if there's any
Yeah,
big movie or something you're thinking about, we're gonna try to do maybe something a little special. So let us know.
yeah.
And like, comment, subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Noted Podcast. Noted.
Mana mana.